All right.
Go hook it up to the big screen. Yeah. How do we do
Welcome everybody that's joining us. We're gonna give it just a couple of minutes. We had almost 300 people register for today's session, so it's gonna take a little bit of time for Zoom to let everybody in, but thank you all for being here.
Before we get started, I got to say Elizabeth wins the background competition today. The most feng shui backdrop.
Yes, this is actually one of our buildings at Microsoft's headquarters, Building 83. So I like to put it up there. It makes me feel like I'm in the office.
Oh, I just thought the people in the background had just stopped to listen in. I didn't know. All right. Well, should we do some round introductions?
Welcome everybody, welcome. We've got a couple more people popping in, so we'll hold just 1 second, Mike. For those of you that are just now joining us, we have just launched a poll. Tell us a little bit about yourself if you don't mind. Panelists, I think you can all see the poll results as they're coming in. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Yeah, we can see the poll as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Hi, Chris, how are you? Hi, Mike Boyd.
Apparently we're a panelist.
Yes, all right. So guys, as we are launching the poll, I just want to take some time to say, first of all, welcome. My name is Candy Tillman. My husband Kevin and I started 50 Strong in April. And we started this weekly series of just kind of informal connections directly to employer partners every Thursday, same time, virtually. And listen, time is critical for us all. So we just want everybody out there to know how much we appreciate you spending about the next 90 minutes with us. If you have to drop early, totally understand. But again, we just wanted to say thank you for being here. I also want to give a very special shout out to our university partners and our employer partners that are making this entire fall series possible. So again, we are hosting virtual sessions. Every Thursday we have awesome national new employers come in to join us. But again, this session is possible because of the support from the University of Arizona, the University of South Florida, the entire Texas A&M University system, and the University of South Carolina. So for those of you that are joining us from any of those schools, please know how much we appreciate you. And we definitely appreciate the support and collaboration. I also want to thank our corporate partners who are helping to make this series possible. Those partners are ADP, Amazon, and TEKsystems. And today we are really, really excited to have TEKsystems here with us along with Microsoft. So a little bit about our why, quite frankly, and what we hope this session helps to bring. You know, we know that navigating civilian employment can be a little bit complicated for those that are accustomed to military norms. We also know that a warm connection and direct exposure, basically introducing folks to amazing employers and getting out of the way, we know that that can make a really big difference. And so again, to that point, every week, Kevin and I do just a very short intro, and then we try to shut up as much as possible and let all of our employer partners do most of the talking. A little bit about who we are. Again, my name is Candy. I have been in the veteran services space for about 2.5 years now. My background is almost 20 years on the corporate side, so marketing, strategy, e-commerce, and a whole lot of B2B tech sales. And so I've been focused on in the veteran space for about 2.5 years. And really, I believe that employment is such a critical part of overall transition. And so that's really kind of where I focus my time. And I would also like to bounce it over to my husband, Kevin, who is my partner in crime on this effort, to just say hello.
Good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate you guys jumping on, especially all the TEKsystem and Microsoft. Thank you. And Candy, thanks for the intro and getting this whole thing going. So I was in the military like the rest of you guys and gals that are jumping on. I got out a while back in 2005, definitely in your shoes back in the day. I struggled a little bit getting kind of a career employment. So I was over at 275 Ranger Battalion, before that, I was at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. So I graduated college, did some other things. But when I got out, I didn't really know what opportunities were out there. I simply didn't understand like a Microsoft or TEKsystems. I was, let me throw my resume on Indeed or something like that. And, maybe that works. I don't know. But I didn't have any luck there. But what I found was when it was a battle, like, I don't know if any of you guys are in this space where you feel kind of a little bit alone, dejected, you're kind of running into some walls and you're, I was kind of throwing my hands up. Luckily, my wife had spent a lot of time in corporate world and helped me navigate that. Eventually, through relationships, I was able to get onto a company, Lockheed Martin, which most of you guys know. It's a really big company. I applied for a job as a customer trainer, and I didn't even know what roles they were there. Like, I'll take whatever. And I was super excited just for that opportunity. And then from there, I realized all the different roles that exist within these big companies. If you talk about Microsoft, it's like 7 countries combined, So it's like, it's not like you're going to be, well, Microsoft, I need to work on, PowerPoint's platform, they do everything. So when I went into Lockheed, I was able to figure out not just doing kind of technical training, but I rolled into testing and, hardware installs, and I started doing project management. And then I rolled into Dell doing project management. So it's one of those things where I was not aware of what was out there. And it's just kind of, if you have an opportunity for a company like Microsoft or get with TEKsystems, these are great opportunities to get your foot in the door, get into these companies and figure out what is going on. So I'm really excited to have them on so you can hear what they have to say, what's their process to getting in and finding an opportunity. It's kind of it's a direct connection to them. So I'm super pumped up that you guys are able to communicate, what are the opportunities and how you go about finding talent and bringing them on board. And, anyway, I'm just excited everybody's here. And Candy, thanks for the few minutes, but that's kind of my background on this.
I'll also say, not too long ago, so Kevin runs a technology company now, and not too long ago, I said something like, hey, if you have to go back to corporate, where will you start? And Kevin says, well, I'll call Mike Powers, of course. And so we are super excited to have Mike Powers and the TEKsystems team here today, for sure.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kevin.
Hopefully you don't have to come to us and everything blows up in your business.
I'll let you know. I got your email.
Yeah.
And if you all didn't know, I will call him first too. That's how I ended up here.
Love it. All right. So, guys, with that, why don't we, let me just talk really quickly, a little bit more background, and then I want to switch over and let all of our panelists introduce themselves. For everybody listening in, here's what I want you to know. I have the utmost honor of working with all of these employers that you see listed here, plus many more every single day. And I want you to know that every day these conversations are, Candy, we are looking for service members. We're looking for veterans. We're looking for military spouses. And so for those of you that are out there, that's what I want you to know, that these recruiters that you see here and lots more are literally working their booties off to try to help specifically find you. Now, here's the other thing I want to say. Maybe you look at some of the companies listed here and you say, listen, not my path, not a good fit for me. Totally fine. What we hope is that the information that they share and the exposure that they help provide week after week give you the tools that you need for your own job search. Our university partners are specifically engaged because they want to provide career readiness, not only for their students, but also we know that universities are engagement hubs for our entire community. And so our university partners are very interested to kind of play their role, if you will, in workforce development. We are incredibly appreciative. And then we have some other really close, what I'll call community partners. Those are VetTICs. If you're not familiar with VetTICs, I encourage you to check them out. They do an awesome service for the military and veterans. Our second partner is Veterati. Veterati is an on-demand mentoring platform that basically you can kind of date around and find the mentors that work specifically for you. And so there are so many people out there that have already dedicated some of their time that are in IT or project management that are just willing to let you pick their ear for an hour. Please take advantage of this service. The last partner that I'll mention is DoD SkillBridge. For those of you that missed out our session last week, DoD SkillBridge for transitioning service members is the #1 thing that I think is so important in your job path. So if you missed that session, you can watch all the replays. They're on our website. Please, please check that one out and take advantage of DoD SkillBridge. So I'm going to stop the screen share so that you can see faces a little bit bigger. And I am going to ask Maggie Bott to kick us off with introductions for our panelists.
Surely. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Hopefully so.
Yep.
Good to go.
Oh, hi. So my name is Maggie Bott. I've been a recruiter with Microsoft for about 9 years. I haven't been a on-campus recruiter the entire time, but I've always been working in university recruiting for Microsoft. The last 6 years or so, I've been aligned in a little bit of a different space where I've just been recruiting sort of early in career talent from schools like Princeton, University of Illinois, which is the really cool shirt I have on today for their Veterans 5K, as well as MIT, Harvard, and some others. And I'm really, really proud and honored to say that this year I really get to focus in on student veterans, which has been sort of my side hustle, quite frankly, for a number of years. And thankfully, my team has seen the value in it. And so I'm really excited to be able to talk to you all today. Thanks so much.
Awesome, Maggie. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
You know what, Elizabeth, we'll kick it over to you. How about that?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Pack. I'm one of Maggie's colleagues. So Maggie focuses on university recruiting, and I focus on what we call industry recruiting. So that's anyone who is a year out of a university program. I've been at Microsoft for 5 years in various roles. I've been an HR manager. I've done corporate training. I've been in recruiting for the past 3. And I've been specifically been doing cleared recruiting for the past year. So I look for people who have top secret clearances, very many of which are in the veteran community. And so we do focus in on, looking at veterans, providing opportunities for veterans. And I'll go a little bit deeper, tell you a little bit more about those roles and what we're looking for a little bit later on.
Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. Mike, how are you?
I'm good. I'll jump in here. My name's Mike Powers. I'm with TEKsystems. I run the Veterans and Disabilities Program. And if you can't tell by my voice, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. And I basically have been in staffing and working with hiring and placing people for 22 years. We're an IT services company. So I have the unique opportunity to be on both sides of this. I've been in the shoes of everybody that's on this call. I joined the National Guard to pay for college, finished college, joined TEKsystems as a recruiter, and started placing people to work. And throughout that time, our company does a high volume of placement with government entities and Department of Defense entities. So I just naturally started gravitating towards hiring veterans that had a clearance, put them into IT positions and entry level. So over the years, I grew from making connections at Fort Knox, Fort Campbell, to going national with the connections, and spend a lot of time finding veterans that are in uniform and moving them to the IT field. So that then led me to where I'm at now, which is this program holistically overall across the country. And although I'm National Guard, I know a lot of people on this call are probably like, this guy doesn't know anything about the military. I did get activated in 2001, like everybody else, and spent several tours in Iraq and Kuwait and Bosnia and different places. So I have gone through deployments and come back and gone through the yellow ribbon and transition programs. I've seen firsthand what some of those are. I know they try and help people, and they do what they can. And then some of it's just, they just didn't know the corporate world. So I look forward to talking today a little bit about what it's behind the curtain on this side, what it's like to try and get into the corporate world, and some very real talk that maybe you don't hear. So we're focused on placing veterans. We place about 3,000 a year in IT roles, and the recruiters on here joining me today are even better at it than me and very specific. So I hope to share with you what I've seen coming out of uniform and what I see on this side as somebody that hires veterans in the company, as well as place veterans at several hundred companies across the nation. Back and help you out. And with that, my partner Joe here.
All right. My name is Joe Franklin. So that guy on the screen that you see there with Joseph Franklin, that's me. I happen to also work for TEKsystems, and so much of Mike's story actually pours over into mine. So, I'll spare you all the details, except I'm a young black male from the city of Chicago. As you all can tell, we speak a little bit different. But the cool thing is that I actually attended Kentucky State University, which is a historically black university. And it's HBCU week, so I'm very proud of that. I've been working at TEKsystems for almost 6 years. So December 2014 is when I started working at TEKsystems directly after my ETS from the Kentucky Army National Guard, in which I actually served in the same unit as this fine young gentleman. Did not know it until my interview with TEKsystems. So I've been working very aggressively when it comes to like hiring veterans, mainly at Fort Knox, supporting like some of the major application contracts as it pertains to the United States Army Human Resources Command. But what I'm very passionate about is just really connecting with these veterans and recent college graduates as well, to be able to understand, so they can understand their skill set and understand how that could be leveraged in the corporate environment. So there's so many talented individuals coming from the military that are very talented, disciplined, and regimented, and proven and accomplished, but they may not understand the corporate jargon. They may not understand how that is valued in the corporate arena. So what I do is I work as essentially as a linguist, right, like a translator essentially, to help those individuals understand where their skill set lies and how it's being leveraged. So that's what I'm very passionate about, and that's who I am. I'm Joe Franklin. I'm originally from the city of Chicago, but I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Joseph. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Last but not least, Dan, how are you?
Thanks so much, Candy. Doing well. Thanks so much for inviting me to participate. I get the awesome opportunity to work with Mike and Joe at TEKsystems. Been with the company about 5 years, and I'm a sales guy. I support our government vertical with our federal government and state government based here in the Seattle area. I'm also an Army reservist. I'm assigned to a civil affairs brigade out in Hawaii. I know, pretty rough assignment, right? But one common theme that I've heard with our soldiers is, in the challenges that they face is, some underemployment, unemployment. And, as I kind of heard that common theme in some, counseling sessions with our folks, it kind of got me fired up to utilize my civilian job and connections and networking with the various groups. And so I help out with the Pacific Northwest region, kind of with their veteran affairs and working with, military service member and their spouses, helping them to get into IT, advance in IT, and just any way that I can help, leverage my network. But great to be on the call. Thanks so much, and looking forward to participating. Thanks.
Hey, Dan, can I put you on the spot a little bit?
Sure.
You mentioned that you were in sales. Sorry, I'm going to go on a tangent here, but one of the things that I often hear from service members is maybe a little negativity around the idea of sales. And I have spent a lot of time in B2B sales. And so every time I hear this, I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so much to that world. How did you get started? Do you mind to share a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. So I was a missionary for 7 years over in Asia. When I returned, I came back with a wife and a child. And so, that was 2011, and just, hearing a lot of, challenges from people serving the military, dealing with 10 years of combat, I decided to, answer the call to become an Army chaplain. And I was looking for opportunities, and actually I took just the, first job that came about. I was actually a garbage truck driver about 1.5 years when I came back, and we were in a rural part of West Central Missouri. And, I got tired of hauling trash around. So an opportunity came about through a friend of mine at church. And he's like, hey, you'd be pretty decent at sales. You can carry a conversation pretty good, and, you're friendly, and, anyways, you can smooth talk or whatever. But he introduced me to an opportunity in sales, and that first company wasn't exactly the culture fit for me. And so I kind of got, burn out of sales a little bit. And we decided to move back to Washington, where I grew up, connected with an old high school buddy. And he opened the door for an opportunity with TEKsystems. And I took a job that was a lot less than I was making, but what I bought into was the culture and the opportunity for growth. And that was 5 years ago, and I don't have any regrets at all. It's been a great career for me. And through my, job in sales, I've also, it's been an avenue to help, something that I was passionate about, seeing service members, their spouses advance in their career and find great opportunities in the Seattle area.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate you sharing that. Before I jump back to this, oh, sorry, what was that?
Can I dive in on
Oh,
that for a second?
please. Please.
All right. I got to say it because, we have a lot of salespeople, a lot of recruiters, and one of our struggles has been getting veterans into these roles. And I talk to them, and it's the same thing. Hey, I don't want to beg people I don't want to have to ask people to do things. I don't want to have to lie or schmooze people, make money. And I think the impression people have of business sales is like door-to-door sales. I don't think they understand that most business sales is going to a customer. They want the product, whether they want it from someone else. When you think about whatever company you want to work for, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Amazon, TEKsystems, somebody's out there selling that product to make that company grow. So Microsoft doesn't sell itself. Somebody walks into the door and sells certain pieces of Microsoft and different tools that they have to different companies. Those are the people that make those connections and then make money from it. So I do think there's a stigma of sales that it's, knocking on the door, getting somebody, triggering Kim lawn. I don't want my lawn sprayed, whatever. That's not what these are. These are normally high-level conversations about what products. I don't want to speak for Microsoft, but for us, it is solving a problem for a lot of different companies.
Listen, so this is what I love, because we didn't even plan to have this conversation, but now that we're having it and all the panelists are like shaking their head, again, I can't tell you how many, it's like, oh no, I don't want to do sales. And, sales is really building relationships, helping find solutions to a need, driving value. And so for those of you that are out there listening, I guess I'm seeing Elizabeth like shake her head, like, just don't discount a role that you may not quite understand what's involved. And particularly when it comes to B2B sales, there is so much in that world. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I am also, before I share the next section of the deck, I also want to give a shout out. We have several tech recruiters that are joining us in the chat box. And so I want to give a shout out to some of the tech recruiters that are joining us as well. Please put your information in there. We appreciate you all being here. One of the things that I am a firm believer in is early and often networking with recruiters. And so for those of you that are not yet out of the service, or for those of you that are maybe in your sophomore year in school, for example, early and often networking. So I'm gonna share my screen again real quick. And we're gonna talk about the chat box in just a second, but I just again wanted to let you guys know, we do these sessions every Thursday, same time every week. We have all the replays available for our past sessions. And so our first week, we had all of our university partners come in to talk about like why they're partnering with us. We did a session on how to leverage LinkedIn. And so if you are new to LinkedIn and you're just looking for some easy tips on how to get started, check out our session from August 27th. We also had leaders from Veterati and VetTix joining us as well. On September 3rd, we had the Amazon Military Affairs team on, which was awesome. For those of you that don't know, that are interested in Amazon, Amazon is one of our series partners. Amazon has weekly engagement sessions just like this that are specific to Amazon. They are going to be back with 50 Strong on October 8th. But just definitely, I think they're really offering up lots of information that I think is valuable. When they come back on October 8th, it's going to be about acing the interview. And so for those of you that have heard anything about the Amazon interview process, regardless if you want to interview with Amazon or not, this should be super helpful. I also want to call your attention. We had Kevin Wordy, who's the military acquisition lead for Deloitte, join us a couple weeks back. He broke down fundamentals of how recruiters operate. And I think this is foundational for everybody that is for the first time looking for a civilian role. Definitely check out that replay. And then last week, excuse me, we did a whole session focused on DoD Skill Bridge. So if you missed that, please check it out. We had Boris Kuhn, who is the leader of DoD Skill Bridge credentialing, and some amazing partners talking about new Skill Bridge pathways. So again, check out those replays if you missed it. Next week, we have folks from Procter & Gamble, U-Haul, and Mayo joining us. I'm super excited about this one. We're going to talk about building your brand, but in the context of, Kevin's probably rolling his eyes a little bit, personal branding can sometimes be a little elusive. And so we're going to do it in the context of brands that we all know and trust, and then translate that a little bit. And then Amazon will be back. And then the following week, we have Pepsi, Ricoh, and ADP. So stay tuned. Again, welcome to all the folks that are joining us today. A couple of housekeeping things before I turn it over to the Microsoft team. First of all, I see some awesome networking going on in the chat box already. Please continue to do that. We want you guys to use this time to make some really good connections with our panelists, but also with other people that are joining in. The Q&A box is for you to send messages. Those messages only come to the panelists. So if you have questions throughout the presentation that you want the panelists to maybe answer live, put them in the Q&A box. A quick comment on the chat box. Many of you are putting in your LinkedIn URL addresses, which is awesome. Please keep doing that. If we have anybody on the call that does not know where their LinkedIn URL address is, I wanted to quickly give you a couple of pointers in case it's helpful. Like I mentioned, I did a whole hour of leveraging LinkedIn in our first session, so you can find this and lots more in that presentation. But specific for your LinkedIn personal URL, the way you get to it is you go to your little picture up at the upper right of your screen, you click on View Profile. And then when you get to View Profile, you want to click on Contact Info. And you can see this is where my, my specific LinkedIn URL lives. Now, some of you have kind of a wonky combination of letters and numbers after your name. This is also, click that pencil button, and this is where you can edit that so that it can just be like your name. This is really helpful when you're communicating to people, or you need to type it out, or even if you want to put it on your resume. So I just wanted to share that, and then you can easily right click, copy, paste into the chat box. I hope that's a little bit helpful for those that may be joining us that aren't quite as accustomed to LinkedIn, but this is a really good way anytime you're on a webinar just to help build out your own network personally. I hope that's helpful. All right, so with that, we had some really great discussion. So Maggie, I'm starting a little bit late, but we still have tons of time. With that, I will turn it over to Maggie and Elizabeth to share with us a little bit more about Microsoft.
Perfect, thank you so much. And I will go through a few slides with you all, and then I'll pass it over to Elizabeth to chat about her space. I did want to sort of give a high-level reminder from the beginning that at Microsoft, we essentially divvy up our recruiting between university and industry. And I'll go into that a little bit more in depth later on in terms of what actually makes a university candidate versus industry. But just something for you to be aware of is that we'll be talking about opportunities in a few of those different spaces. So whether you're a student right now, active duty, or have simply been in the industry for a while, there are plenty of opportunities for everyone. So, like I said in my intro, I've been a university recruiter for about 9 years, and I'm now focusing on student veterans and as well as cleared talent in the university space. I myself am not a veteran. I'm just an extremely passionate civilian supporter, and I'm just so grateful for all of the service that you all have given to our country. So thank you. I graduated college in 2007 from a school that no one's ever heard of. And the only reason I usually call that out is because I think it's a good story to show that you don't have to go to a top university to have an amazing career with a company like Microsoft. It's more about your skill set and what you bring to the table than about the name on the degree. My purpose at Microsoft is, getting to live my passion for supporting veterans in my current job. Like I said earlier, this was something I used to do on the side. I'd be at Princeton or University of Illinois, and I'd try to meet with student veterans on the side, the student groups and such. And so now I really get to live that every day, and it just really brings me a ton of joy. So couldn't be happier. In terms of my fun fact, so I would say actually my fun fact is that I'm very bad at thinking of fun facts. I'm that person in the icebreaker who can never think of what to say. But in lieu of having anything all that exciting, I love to build model airplanes. I think my husband's going to kill me if I bring too many more home at this point. I also love going to air shows, although they've pretty much all been canceled this year. I'm really looking forward to 2021, hoping they'll come back. And I have a horse named Arnie. Next slide, Candy. All right, so this first slide that I really wanted to go over, and I'm kind of happy that some of the other folks that have been talking have said some things already in this vein, but one of the most common questions that I get from veterans that I work with is, what do I bring to a company? And so I would say, you know, this is titled, What Do Veterans Bring to Microsoft? But this is what you bring to any company. And so my hope is, after I go through this slide, you might have some takeaways that help you reframe the way you think about what you offer a company, right? You might not have the exact job description match, but you have a ton of assets that really set you apart from a civilian applicant. So the first one here is grit and leadership. I think most of us would agree that the military ecosystem of leadership is second to none. And especially, you know, in my space where I'm working with students, if you compare a student veteran to a civilian student, typically there's not really much comparison where it comes to the leadership experience. And I would say too, even if you weren't in a, you know, official leadership capacity while you're in the military, I guarantee you still honed and exhibited leadership in numerous ways. And that is a huge asset to any company. The second one is power skills and high EQ. So this one is really interesting to me. I learned about some research back in February through a veterans conference that I attended actually. And the research basically found that most civilians do not feel that veterans on the whole have EQ or emotional intelligence. Now, obviously, veteran or not, everyone has their own, you know, individual strengths and weaknesses, but overall, this has really become a stereotype. So the thing that's interesting about this, though, is that many veterans do have high EQ, and not only that, many of you also have really high power skills or soft skills. And so some of the skills I'm talking about in this space are things like strong adaptability, strong discipline, attention to detail, handling really ambiguous situations, complex multitasking, high stress handling, and then, you know, things like being able to pivot very quickly. Those are all, you know, perhaps seem like they might not be that applicable, but as an example, sometimes I have students, veteran or non-veteran, ask me over the years, hey, how do I really set myself apart, you know, from all the other students that are applying, and they all look pretty much the same? And it's soft skills. It really is, because anyone can learn how to code. But if you know how to code well and you have these soft skills to back it up, you're going to look like a superstar to a company. So those are really, really important. This third one, a track record of experiential learning. So there's this really great guy. If you guys don't already follow him on LinkedIn, I recommend it. His name is Chris Molina. He's a USMC veteran, and now he does leadership coaching. I met him at the SVA National Conference this year. He basically taught me about this model or this understanding of how we learn called the 70-20-10 learning model, which essentially posits that people only learn 10% from formal learning, whereas they learn 20% from other people and 70% from experiential training or on-the-job training. So this, you might at first be like, well, what does that matter? What it means is that veterans have a track record of experiential learning, right? Whatever your military occupation was, you had to learn it on the job and learn it pretty quickly. And so in a conversation with an employer, you can say, hey, yeah, I might not know that job right now, but look at my track record of being able to ramp up very quickly. And that's very powerful because employers want to hire folks that they know can onboard quickly. So the fourth one, aptitude for teamwork and collaboration. I feel that this one pretty much goes without saying in the veteran community. I mean, everything you do in the military is about your team, right? And I would say, you know, overall, when it comes to collaboration, veterans have the gold standard on that. And frankly, this might sound cliche, but I promise you it's not. I have literally seen people come through for interviews that are brilliant coders. They're really, really smart cookies, but they can't collaborate out of a bag. Like they really just can't make it because they don't do teamwork, they can't have a conversation, and they don't get an offer. So collaboration and teamwork is much more important than you might imagine. And then the last one, so passion to contribute to a greater good. Now, you know, I thought a lot about this one, and I know from talking to a lot of veterans, people join for all sorts of reasons. You know, you're called to duty, something happens in the world, you're seeking adventure, you want to travel, or you want to pursue education, and the GI Bill is a way to do that. But I think that the common theme that I've found, whether they feel this way at the beginning or by the end, is that veterans value being able to contribute to something greater than them. And where Microsoft comes in is that dovetails very nicely with our mission, right? Our mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And that's, this is a place where, you know, you can continue to do that. All righty, Candy, next slide, please. Thank you so much. So this next slide is a little bit more specific into what Microsoft can provide to you if you were to come work for us. So first of all, we have incredible relocation and benefits. I actually probably would need a whole extra meeting to tell you about all of our benefits, but from healthcare, parental leave, we have mental health support, fitness offerings, health savings account, 401k plans, sort of the whole gamut. I will frankly tell you, I never expected to be able to have the sort of you know, support that I have, you know, growing up and going to college and all of that. I feel extremely lucky to have the kind of support that Microsoft has. And then one note I did just want to add is that definitely some of our veterans choose not to use our benefits in favor of VA benefits. And we certainly understand that veterans have unique challenges sometimes in terms of what they need. So that just wanted to kind of put that out there, that it's totally up to you in terms of how you use your benefits or not. So the other really cool thing is we have already a really robust employee resource group. And I think this is so important because from talking with a ton of veterans, my understanding is that the transition to civilian world can be really challenging, right? It really helps, I think, to sort of have a little bit of a built-in tribe so that day one, you can start meeting other people who have made the transition before you and make things a little bit easier. For those that are university students, we do have paid internships, which are paid quite handsomely, I would add. They have benefits themselves, such as health insurance, and we help you relocate for the summer and that sort of thing. And then another really cool perk is that for those that are eligible, if you're called to reserve or active duty, you can kind of submit to get your pay made up for the in-between time, which I think is really, really special. We also have this program called Aspire, and I do want to make sure to call out that this one is only for university hires, but anyone hired in the university ecosystem basically gets to go through this program. It's a 2-year program that just happens on the side of your regular work. And essentially it's a learning and development and sort of to help you get your feet wet and figure out how your career is going to go and kind of how to manage your career. So it's a really nice way, particularly given that transition for veterans, to help you kind of get accustomed to the world, to the civilian world. And then lastly, this is, you know, sort of repetitive to the last point on the prior slide, but again, we have a mission here through which you can continue to serve. You can keep feeling good about the work you're doing because we're really, you know, striving to make a difference in the world for everyone. All right, Candy, thank you. Okay, so perhaps some of you may have seen some of the early advertisements for this event, and we had Mr. Joe Wallace advertised on those. He is actually the director for military affairs, awesome guy. He unfortunately could not join us this week. I believe he was on last week's call talking about SkillBridge though, so you can watch the recording. But in lieu of him, I'm going to chat through just ever so briefly his programming. Full caveat, because I don't recruit for these, if you have questions, I may not really know the answer. But I will have my email shared in a couple slides here, and then you can follow up with me if you're not seeing the information on the website, and I will be happy to get you an answer. So with that, the two main programs, we have the Software and Systems Academy, which is essentially an 18-week course or training where they are training you up specifically in either cloud development or administration. And the really cool thing about this program is that graduates then get an opportunity to interview for a full-time position with either Microsoft or one of our hiring partners. So they have a ton of partners, think Booz Allen, Northrop, Lockheed, a ton of others that you can get opportunities with. So it's a really fantastic program. There are some pretty cool success stories and that sort of thing on the website, which is the aka.msssa. And then the spouse technology program is a similar kind of vein, right? But this is for spouses. And this program is newer than the prior one. I would say the big caveat with MSTA currently is they're not accepting applications right now. They're sort of taking a little bit of a pause with everything that's happened with COVID to sort of reevaluate, how to kind of run the program in a more virtual setting going forward. So I would say for both of these programs, the best thing to do is stay tuned on these websites. That's where they will be updating anything that is the latest on them.
And Maggie, if I can just add, in case it's helpful for those of you that are on the call that are active duty, the Microsoft Software and Systems Academy program is a DoD SkillBridge program. So I just wanted to kind of make that link. And so again, definitely check out last week's DoD SkillBridge session. Joe did talk about this program for several minutes. And so if you are DoD SkillBridge eligible, or if you will be, and again, this is for folks during their last up to 6 months of active duty, please, again, check that out.
Thank you, Candy. All right, now we can pop on to the next one. Perfect. So this last slide is the one that actually goes over what I specifically am dedicated to recruiting. And so again, I wanted to clarify for folks sort of what's a student veteran, what makes a student veteran. So basically, eligibility wise, you must be attending a 4-year college in a full-time capacity or within 1 year of having graduated. And you can be pursuing an undergrad, a master's, a PhD, those are all fine. I'm able to recruit all of those. I think a couple of examples of what would not be a student veteran officially, that would be industry instead, is if you are currently active duty and you are pursuing some classwork on the side part-time, you're an industry candidate. Or another example would be if you're working full-time for a company and you're perhaps going to school part-time, maybe getting a master's degree, going back to school for a part-time master's degree, you're an industry candidate as well. In terms of role types, so I do recruit in 2 distinct spaces. I recruit software engineers and program managers for both full-time and intern roles, and these are non-cleared. So I would say, probably the majority of veterans that I work with fall into this space. And then I recruit for software engineers, both full-time and intern, that have clearance. And the clearance therein has to be active, top secret, or higher. And obviously in the clearance space, I don't always recruit veterans because we find civilians who have it as well. But those are sort of the 2 main areas. And then I called out here too, we have a lot of other opportunities too. Customer facing technology, when y'all earlier were talking about kind of sales, that one comes to mind because that is a space where people are working to deploy Microsoft products and services to our customers and help them run their businesses better by using our technology. So that can be an interesting kind of, not sales per se, but interesting aspect there. We of course have things in finance, marketing, hardware, even MBA roles too. So the caveat is, I don't recruit for those kind of other opportunities directly, but I always do my best that I can to amplify your applications or get you the right links if you're interested in applying. So you're always welcome to ask me about those too. And then lastly, I've just got a couple of links here for you to save. The Student Veteran Careers website is my dedicated website. It's going to have some cool veteran stories coming online. Already has a couple. We'll have some more coming from interns from this summer that are veterans. And it also has links to our applications. And then the cleared applications specifically live on the cleared applications link. And then there's my email address. So, reach out anytime, especially, if you're wanting to apply, if you have questions, if you're not sure if you're a student veteran or if you apply for university or industry, I'm happy to help you figure that out too. And then just a quick plug that I am also on Veterati. I'm super excited to know that that Candy called this out, but Veterati is awesome. I love doing mentoring on there. So if you're ever interested, I'd be happy to mentor you on Veterati.
Love it. Awesome, Maggie. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right. Hey, Kev, before we transfer over to Elizabeth, panelists, I, for some reason today, am not able to see the Q&A box while I'm screen sharing. So I would ask for my fellow panelists if there are questions as we're going through the slides that you want to pop in to ask Maggie or Elizabeth. On behalf of the other folks that are joining, please feel free to do that.
There's been a couple, some of them have been answered already.
Okay.
There's a few questions with regard to, and it's a lot of, Maggie, what you talked about, which are there opportunities within these IT companies if you don't have an IT background? And there's, just from my experience, and Maggie talked about it, there's tons of opportunities inside these big companies with zero IT background. She talked about all the soft skills and your experience, emotional intelligence. My background, I left as a sniper. My degree was in philosophy, and I played some baseball. And the next thing you know, I'm at Lockheed, and it's like, what am I doing here? When you get in, it's like, it was a training role, because as Maggie said, there's a lot of engineers that are extremely smart and they're exceptional at what they do, but they would rather sleep on a bed of nails than communicate. Not all of them, some are great communicators, but a lot of them, they'll build it, but they don't want to communicate, or they may not want to test the stuff they build, or the rack and stack of hardware. There's a million jobs within, because a lot of them are projects or different programs, and they all require, there may be 40 different jobs inside a specific program. So it's not just, hey, I do Xcode, I write JavaScript. That stuff is really specific. And if you don't know how to, if you don't know how to code, then you just don't know how to code. You have to go to school to do that. It's kind of tough to do on the fly unless you're building something for your buddy and he doesn't care. But there are a ton of opportunities without the IT experience to get into these companies, as Maggie pointed out. So, and she addressed a lot of it, so I don't want to hammer it too much, but yeah, keep your confidence up, because you bring a lot to the table that these programs want, that they can use. So just FYI, that was one of them, Candy. The other the rest were really directed towards Elizabeth and Maggie on the MS side.
Awesome. Yeah, I would just add, oh, sorry, Candy.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Maggie.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add one thing that I always tell prospective candidates, whether for me or for any other job, is not to put too much emphasis on a job description. I mean, obviously you don't want to apply for something that's totally out in left field and you don't have any of the concrete qualifications for it, because then a recruiter is going to be like, why would you apply for this? But if you don't match every single bullet, don't let that be a reason to say, oh, I wouldn't be good for that. They wouldn't possibly look at me, because a lot of times job descriptions can be a little bit general, or they may actually be even copying and pasting if they have a lot of different kinds of opportunities. So it might not actually be that honed in to the role that they have, that they're looking for. So as long as you meet, a fair enough amount of sort of the concrete pieces, if you're missing a couple things, just go for it and know that the soft skills on your resume are going to hopefully speak out for what you bring to the table.
Yeah, and I totally would echo that too, because sometimes too, you might not be a fit for that particular role, but there's definitely been people that I view their resume and I'm like, oh, they'd be perfect for this other position or this other team. And I'm able to find an opportunity for them that's a great fit, but I wouldn't have known that they were even looking or have seen their resume unless they kind of took that risk and that step to put themselves out there.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
And if
Thank
I
you
can
guys
jump
so
in real
much.
quick. I know Elizabeth wants to go, but while we're on that topic, the IT field is one of the fields you don't have to have a college degree to get in. And a matter of fact, the majority don't. It's more of a trade certification based industry and vocation. So most people have an entry point where they get a certification that took, I don't know, it was 4 to 12 weeks to get the certification. And then they enter at an entry point. And they continue to move up. They're going back and getting new certifications, because technology is changing every year anyway, to the point that whatever you would have learned 5 years ago has become probably in the background, and you have to continually learn. So it's more trade based. You can go to schools. That's why the MSSA Academy that they were speaking about earlier, that I can speak very highly of. Our company's hired several people from that. They went through that program. So you can go out and get your foot into the door by getting certifications or trades, and we can talk about more about that later, within a couple of months. You do not have to have a degree. That helps for management roles, but no one's a developer. No one's born a developer. They start somewhere, and all of them start with an entry point. But you want to elaborate on that, Joe?
I definitely want to drive on, but I have a feeling we'll revisit that.
Yeah, I just want to make that point real quick while we're on it, that you can enter that field and your GI Bill goes towards most any certification, and it's written part of that too. But anyway, to let Elizabeth go on, we'll talk about more later, but do not feel like you have to have experience and a degree to get into that field.
It's awesome, guys. Okay, so Elizabeth, let's, I know you have some awesome information to share, and so I want to make sure that we're, make sure you have plenty of time. And then Mike and Joe, we're going to kick it back over to you for the remaining part as Elizabeth rolls through her session.
All right, great. Thanks, Candy. So a little bit more about me, and please, my email address is right below my name. Please write it down, shoot me an email if you're interested in talking more. About my professional background, I mentioned at the beginning, 5 years at Microsoft, been in various roles, been 3 years as a recruiter, and 1 year recruiting specifically for cleared engineering positions. In a former life, I was an intelligence analyst. I was actually a military Eastern European counter-drug intelligence analyst, which is very specific. And when I transitioned out of government work and kind of out of public sector, I kind of went through I think maybe some of the things that a lot of you are going through as you make your own transitions. And I am a military spouse, so I did leverage a lot of the opportunities that are available to learn about different careers, to learn about different organizations. I went through the Military Spouse Employment Program and got a mentor. So Veterati, I assuming is pretty similar. And she helped me think about things that I would have never thought of. I mean, as a very specific Eastern European military counter-drug intelligence analyst, I would have never have thought that HR would be a good fit for me, or that I started in corporate training, and that the skills that I had as an analyst, breaking things down and basically explaining and teaching people about complex problems, really translated well into training, breaking things down, how to present things, how to explain, and it ended up being a really seamless transition for me. So I love that 50 Strong exists, that you have these weekly webinars where people can hear more about experiences, hear more about different companies, and maybe spark your interest in something you didn't even know was a possibility. So this is fantastic. My fun facts, I lived in Poland for 2 years. I used to speak Polish back when I was doing more Eastern European work. I could probably get by if I needed to at a restaurant. And then my go-to fun fact is that I actually went to middle school for 6 months with Christina Aguilera. way back when in the day. So for the next slide, please. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the roles that I specifically recruit for. So I recruit for our engineering teams. And what that means is basically there's a lot of engineers at Microsoft. When we consider the engineering teams, they're the ones who are building the actual products themselves or building the infrastructure for our cloud platforms. We have a lot of customer-facing sales engineers, and I'll touch on that a little bit later, but I focus on the people who are doing kind of a lot of the back-end development work. And I focus on people who have clearances, so top secret or above, similar to what Maggie does in her cleared recruiting work. And there are 3 primary locations where our roles are located. The first is Reston, Virginia, which is about, depending on traffic, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour outside of Washington, D.C. It's located close to the International Airport, Dulles, out in Virginia. So it's Dulles International, which is the main airport in the DC area. Microsoft just announced we're going to be bringing 1,500 new roles to Reston, Virginia. We just put a lease down on 2 new office buildings. We're bringing those 1,500 roles within the next year. So we're going to be very busy in recruiting. We're going to have a lot of opportunities. It's going to be a mix of cleared opportunities, uncleared opportunities, engineering opportunities, service opportunities, as well as customer-facing sales opportunities. So there's going to be a lot going on in the Reston area. The other location we recruit for is Elkridge, Maryland, which is also in DC. It's right around Fort Meade, about halfway in between Washington, DC and Baltimore, Maryland. This is our newest cleared development center, so we're still building it out. There's going to be a lot of opportunity coming to the area, but it is still a newer one. It's a little bit smaller at this point in time, but we're currently going through a refresh and redeveloping these whole centers. And then the last location is Redmond, Washington. This is our headquarters outside of Seattle. I believe, Maggie, you're going to have to correct me. I think we have about 40,000 employees currently in headquarters right now. We just went through a whole campus refresh. And my background actually is one of the buildings that we have. This is building 83. And I like to tell people, I kind of like to give them an idea of, what it's like to work at Microsoft and what the environment's like. We have the same set of architects and designers who goes to each one of our sites. So they're each different and they're all unique, but they have a similar feel. So I'll kind of have a similar feel to the background that I have behind me. And if we go to the next slide. I'll tell you a little bit about the roles that I recruit for. So my team focuses on 2 specific roles, but I'll tell you about some other positions that we do have available and that we do place people in as well. The first is a software engineer. Again, I'm on the industry side, so we're looking for people for 1+ years experience. You'll be focused on back-end product development. There's heavy coding. You'll be doing some DevOps and some deployment. We're language agnostic in the sense that, we're Microsoft, so our main language is C#. That's the language of Microsoft. But when you interview with us, as far as, software engineering is concerned, we're really looking for people who can code well, but more importantly, that they demonstrate that they understand how to solve problems, how they can learn on the fly, how they can adapt, because that's just the nature of technology right now. I mean, there's something new all the time, and you got to be able to, be really agile. And so those are really the types of qualities that we're looking for, rather than being a super expert in C#, right? It's real more that problem solving and that adaptability piece. And then we're hiring pretty much for all levels right now. And you do have to have a minimum of a top secret clearance and be willing to up level to SCI and do the full scope polygraph. The other main position that we recruit for is something called a site reliability engineer. So again, we do have 1+ years of experience for this role. You're doing more live site work. So it's more operational than the software engineering role. So we're doing a lot of automation, some debugging, some scripting, but you will be full on doing software development anywhere from 30 to 70% of your time, depending on the team. And I think this is what sets our SREs apart from SREs to other companies, is that you're a full on developer. You're going to be doing development. You're not just going to be doing operational piece. So, and you're expected to have very similar, if not the same, coding skills as the backend software engineer. And this is something that I think is very unique to Microsoft and not something that you'll see at other companies. Same thing with the languages. Again, it's more about demonstrating that you know how to code, but more importantly, that you can problem solve, that you can learn, and that you can adapt. and same clearance requirements, so top secret and willing to up level to SC on full scope polygraph. So these are roles that my team focuses on, but we also readily place people in program management roles. We have varying program management, especially in industry side. I feel like it's a catch-all term for a lot of different things. So we have, very technical program managers who used to be software engineers, but who moved over to the program management side. So they, manage the roadmap. They define requirements. They're in code reviews. They're very kind of deep into the technology, and they're also doing that project management side where they're pushing the engineering teams to stay on track. We have program managers who are more customer facing, who are actually focused, for example, in a group we have called Azure Global, they actually focus on building partnerships with different government entities to really understand, some of their pain points, their problem points. They're not sales, they're more just building relationships, and then they bring that learning back to our engineering teams in order to make our products better. So there's a wide variety of program management positions. And that's just on the engineering side. If we go to the more customer-facing sales side, we have program managers who manage those relationships with the particular customers. And with our earlier conversation about B2B sales, I loved that because I feel like what our sales engineers, what our sales program managers do is they're helping solve problems. They're helping ease pain points. They're providing an extremely valuable service to our customers, and they're not pushing things on people. They're helping making their lives easier, and especially our customer-facing sales engineers. We call them PFEs. They are some of the quickest thinkers you'll ever encounter because they have to be able to develop, they have to understand systems, they have to be able to work with customers. And so they really are agile and they're adapt and they really ease pain points for customers like you wouldn't believe. So that's just a sampling of some of the roles that we have outside of software engineering and site reliability engineering. We, I hear, are going to have more roles for finance that will be cleared as well, and then maybe even some legal work as well. Oh, and I should mention, sorry, cyber. Cyber is very huge. So if you're a cyber engineer or you have a security background, we have lots of those roles available if you have a clearance as well. So let's go to the next slide. And so a little bit about the teams you hire for these positions. They mainly fall into two larger engineering organizations at Microsoft. The first is what we call Cloud plus Artificial Intelligence, C plus AI for short, and the other is Experiences and Devices, or E&D for short. Cloud plus AI is where you're going to find Azure. So Azure is our cloud platform. It's our competitor to AWS. We have many teams that are hiring. The ones I see most active right now would be our storage team, build out the storage capacity for the platform, our compute team, which works like lower down in the stack, and they build the kind of the bones of infrastructure, the Azure platform. We also have an AI platform team, so they focus on kind of machine learning and artificial intelligence. An identity team that does authentication products, our security team, which builds security products for government customers, and then our commerce and ecosystems team, which builds a lot of the business process software that then enables other products to function and to also monetize those products. And then on the other side, Experience and Devices, our main team that is hiring is Office 365. This includes everything, you'd stereotypically associate with Office, so PowerPoint, Word, Excel. But I like to tell people, you're probably not going to be building out the latest feature in Word. You're going to be solving really complex problems around how do you have a document that's housed or stored in 5 different places, and you have 10 different people in that same document editing at the same time and collaborating. And so you're solving a lot of really complex and interesting collaboration problems. And you're doing a lot of cloud-based work. You might not be building the cloud like you would in Azure, but you're doing a lot of cloud-based work. You're building software that people are readily going to identify with and use on a regular basis. So when you think about now with the situation with COVID, everyone's using a lot more kind of collaborative software. And Office 365 has really ramped up its usage as far as our customer base is concerned. So you're going to be building things that people actually touch, that people, readily that you'll come into contact with will know about. And for next time, I think that's all that I have for today about the roles that we're hiring for, but I'd love to answer any questions if you have any.
Ken, I got a question for you. I'm looking at the time frame. Are we good on time? So Mike and Joe and all that stuff. Just throwing
Good.
them out.
Well, let's just answer questions. Because if I was on the other end of this line, that's what I would want, is my questions answered. We can talk about us, but yeah, any questions? And if Elizabeth, if you're like me, I was trying to keep see the questions and answer them. But the one question I think many would have, and I'll ask you, is, hey, I'm in the uniform. I know you've got a lot of different roles. What's the best way for me? I don't know if I'm a fit for the role. What entry-level roles, or how do I navigate getting into your system? Talk to the veterans program people, talk to your recruiter, both. How would I get from being in uniform into your company if you advise it?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I'll jump in, and then I'd love to hear what Maggie has to say as well. I'd say pursue a lot of different paths. So I think the first is definitely connect with Maggie and I on LinkedIn. I put into the chat, I'll put it in again. We have a Microsoft cleared LinkedIn page, LinkedIn group, where we post everything we have going on as far as recruiting activities. I'd say also don't be shy to search out people on LinkedIn. So search out people who either went to your alma mater or people who you have a connection point with, and just connect with them. I don't know how many people from my alma mater who didn't know existed who contacted me, and yeah, I'm happy to have a 15-minute conversation with them and tell them a little bit more about what we have and tell them more about what we do and how they can get into the company. I'd say it's just seek out as many opportunities as you can to learn and connect with people, and don't be shy. And there's no question that's too small. I'm sure if you have the question, many other people have that question as well. I think, in addition to those opportunities that Maggie talked about, MSSA, as well as our military spouse program, definitely keep up to date on what's going on our job site, and then just make as many connections as you possibly can.
I second all of that, Elizabeth, and I did put the LinkedIn group for cleared professionals in the chat for you all in case you're interested. But yeah, I would say that the way that I meet most of the veterans I work with, obviously some of it is from on-campus networking. I do a lot of office hours and engaging with Student Veterans of America and so on. But I'm also very heavily involved on things like Handshake and of course LinkedIn. And so to Elizabeth's point, don't be afraid or shy to reach out to someone, because you never know what it could lead to. And a lot of times I talk to a veteran who, kind of at first they seem a little shy, and then they feel like they're not really necessarily a fit for what I'm looking for. But I, in many cases, can, recruit you for either my roles or help you get in front of other roles that are a great fit. So definitely reach out anytime. We would love to hear from you.
Awesome. Maggie and Elizabeth, thank you so much. This has been really cool to hear, and we really appreciate you guys being here. One of the things, as we were getting ready for the session, everybody's heard of Microsoft. And I think maybe some of you have not heard of TEKsystems quite as much as Microsoft. But in addition to Microsoft and exploring all of your options, we have TEKsystems here because, and I'm going to let Mike and Joe talk a little bit more about this, but from my perspective, TEKsystems is working across technology companies and often is the first to know when they are starting to think about hiring. So I want to now turn it, Mike, over to you and Joe. I will pull up that one slide that you sent me, Mike. But you guys have perspective across companies that I think is really important to share. And so I think Dan might still be with us for a couple of minutes, but I want to just turn it over to you guys for the next 15, 20 minutes or so. I need 2 at the end, Mike, to do the giveaway, but I'd love for you guys to just kind of talk about what you think makes sense at this point.
Sure. Well, we'll talk a little bit about our industry, and I'll be quicker talking about us. And then we want to answer questions, and we know if we're sitting on that end, you don't want everything being one direction. So if you're on, we'll talk quickly about tech, a little bit about the industry, and then we'll answer questions. And questions stop, we'll keep talking about ourselves further about that. So we're an IT staffing services company. We're the largest in the U.S. and we hire right at about 3,000 veterans a year into IT positions. We hire about 33,000 people a year in positions. And the way we operate is a little bit different is we have internal positions for sales and recruiting and business operations. Then we have the other side of the fence, which is technology. And Joe will talk about that a little bit in a minute too. But so every company that needs technology done, they don't always hire their own internal technology people. They may outsource that or bring in a contractor. And in my experience, the word contract in the military realms is kind of pushed back against. Would you say? Yeah. It's like, I want a permanent job. I don't want a contract job. What many don't know about the IT industry is most of the work done is contract, because once you set up the IT system, by default, it's supposed to be autonomous. Then you have to move on to the next work. It's very similar to doing accounting for a large company. Once you do the accounting resolution, then you move on, so forth. But as far as contract work goes, that's how a lot of people enter the field too. And people move around, and it gives them the freedom to do the work. When work's finished, they may choose another contract at that moment. It may take a month to go fishing and then come back and do another contract. Where if you want to take a month off with the permanent employer, let me know how that gets done, because I don't know. So, but many people enter the field. And so this audience here should know that most of the people we hire, their veterans, out of the thousands I looked at it, many will get an A+ certification that takes a month, a Net Plus, or they'll go to the MSSA Academy, which we hire heavily out of. And then they begin an entry point into IT, a desktop or a help desk person. And they may say, that's not my career path. I don't know what I want to do, but that's how they get in. And they watch people develop software. They learn, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So engaging with people in the IT helps them understand what they want to do, and then they start working on getting education. So that's what we do as a company. We're in 120 locations in the US, we're across the globe, we're in Europe, and we rely heavily on veterans to fill those gaps, because even if they're not into IT, they are technologically savvy. They know how to use the computers for the maintenance systems, whatever it may be. So it's an easy field to enter without going through a 4-year degree. Now, the 4-year degree doesn't mean it's not important, but in IT, I think that's less important, Joe. It's more like if you're going to move to management. So you can get into IT within 3 months. And, like I say, we hired 33,000 people. And as far as job codes for technology, I know of over 190 that we have. So it's not like just software, just this. It's like Kevin's story, project management, people management. So that's what we do. And we put a lot of people to work in this field that didn't start in this field, and we're pretty good at that. But Joe, what would you say I missed as far as the technology?
Well, I wouldn't say you missed much, but I would say this: what I can just add a little color on is just connecting with individuals who are on the call and just trying to speak the language, right? Because we do this whole linguistic thing. That's what I do.
All right.
That's it, right? So in the talent field, we have to understand there's truly a war for talent. There is a war for talent. And for a lot of individuals who are like going into the corporate sector, one skill that they naturally lack, and I don't necessarily think they lack it on a personal front, but we have this whole dichotomy of personal, like, hey, I'm Joe Franklin, how you doing? Hey, Mike, what's up? Yeah. Then like professional, how you doing? I'm Joseph Franklin. Like, I work for TEKsystems, right? So we see this, and there are not so many people who come from the veterans rank that know how to storytell in a way where they can like really emphasize their skills, their abilities, their experiences, and leverage that within an actual interview setting to showcase that they are a great fit for the job. So let's work the tape back. I've never met Kevin before. This is my first time meeting Kevin, and I heard his story. Now, we want to give a lot of love to Kevin because he's very candid, right? The way he said, he's like, look, I got out, I wanted to get a job. I didn't know, I ended up at Lockheed. He said, like, customer, he didn't even know what the job and like what the role was, but he was determined. So guess what? Now I understand that he understands grit, determination. Like he felt confident that he had the skills and ability to be able to perform the role. And guess what? He went into that interview with all of those traits. And I'm guessing, my assumption, I could be very presumptive here, Kevin, but I could be very presumptive in the sense of, I felt like he spoke with conviction And that made someone want him to be a part of that team. And then guess what? If we really do the active listening and we start like, putting the dots together, had Kevin gotten a career path in another sector, he may have started a business in something that's not technology. But he got an opportunity with Lockheed Martin, and technology is not stopping for anyone. I don't think it's waiting for anyone right now. Right. So like for my advice, like I think that who's ever on this call right now, you're now ingrained, like you're understanding the rules of engagement. So this isn't regimented. This isn't like, hey, I execute on these things. I get this cert. I go to this class. I execute on this. I get a job. No, this is not the terrain. That's not the environment. Let's do a little recon, right? No.
Well, let's get into that.
Right.
So here's what we work on contract positions. What makes us unique is we have entry level, mid level, and senior level. So for the veterans that may not be in IT, I can tell you a little bit about how to jump into the field. So I was watching the comments, and we have a couple of Navy nuclear people that are wanting to know what I can do with that. So if you're in the nuclear program or any kind of military program that's technical, you may not be a software developer, but you understand technology. So now it's just a matter of, I'm going to jump in. I know what code and prompts and things are, but I don't necessarily know languages. So what you can do is talk to recruiters, start to see what jobs are out there. And with tech, what we're really successful at is we have a government services team led by a gentleman, Jason Parrish, and his recruiters probably on this, but they can take people with that technical background and guide them on how did other people that were technical, but maybe not pure on IT people move into that. And so it could be an A+, Net Plus. It could be getting the MC or the MSSA certification. And they move into like a $20, $22 an hour job, do that for a while. Then they start seeing what's in that realm. Just like when you got in the military, whatever your MOS was, you thought that was the whole world. You get in and you see aviation, you see engineering, you see all these different things are going on. Now you know maybe what you want to do. That's the biggest thing in IT is you can't get in entry level at a 40K and move up. But we also have senior jobs. So the other thing to know about us and what we do is a lot of companies want to hire someone but may not have the bandwidth to do the recruiting, or they may not have the time. So they come to us and say, we want somebody that can do A, B, and C, go find them. So we do talk to individuals like yourself, and we'll put them in front of that client, and then they'll hire them. So you're like, well, why would somebody do that? There are companies that just don't have HR departments, or their HR department sure doesn't understand technology like what Microsoft was talking about. So what they do is they'll leverage IT firms like us to do the vetting, to go through the skills, and then make sure it's a cultural match, do all the benefits match up, and then we put them in front of them, then they're hired. So if you want a full-time job, we are also a conduit for that. We do contract to hire, and direct placement. Try before you buy happens a lot. We talks about it at companies, but they want to make sure somebody's good, dependable, that show up at 8. A way to figure that out about somebody before investing in hiring them permanent is to bring them in on contract, have them do the work. If they show that they're a good worker, then they hire them permanent from us, rather than trying to figure it out through interview. So that's a big advantage of TEKsystems and what we do. We put people to work, have over 80,000 people deployed right now somewhere, and many of them are entry level. So you say, well, how's that work? Talk about Joe, but I put people to work all the time that came from the military that didn't know IT, could learn, and we would put 6 of those people with somebody that's really knowledgeable, and then those 7 people would travel around to Army bases and change out routers or serve desktop. And over that 4 to 8 week period, those 6 journeymen underneath the senior person now know how to do it. So then they become managers of the next group that goes out. That's kind of how the contract works. Exposed, and the company can't hire somebody permanent to be traveling around to do that because it's a means to an end. You jump in the contract world and do that work for a year and a half, which is what's the average contract now? It's 6 months or a year.
We'll go 6 months to a year.
So you'll do a contract 6 months to a year with us, deploying PCs and learning how to install software, and then now you have the knowledge to go out on your own and do it. And some people go take permanent jobs, come back to us and do contract, come back and forth. But it's hard to find a company that has more going on. So we work with every Fortune 500 company. We work with 50% of the Fortune 2000 companies. Like I say, we hire 33,000 people a year, and those people aren't all degree, mastered, and experienced in the field. Many of them are entry. So,
but I just think that we're somewhat talking at a high level, Mike. So let's
all right,
let's go ahead and do what Maggie brought up. Let's promote the emotional quotient. Let's promote some empathy here, right?
$50 word.
Yeah, I need that gift card, sir. All right, so here we go. In regards to individuals in your space, right? Let's do this. Let's do some therapy here. If so much of your success was contingent upon actually completing tasks that were outlined for you, I understand. I get it. Like this is a whole new world. Like Princess Jasmine said, right? This is real, okay? This is very authentic. I need you all to understand that you have to embrace the ambiguity. Exactly what Elizabeth brought up. She said, hey, send me your resume, and you may not be a fit for this job, but there are like 20 other jobs that I'll send you to 20 other managers. In the world of the military, we don't do that. That's not, you execute upon the job that's outlined for you. It is a whole new world. It's a whole new experience. And so I want to promote some empathy there, but I want to tell you that that is the secret weapon. That's the secret sauce. To embrace the ambiguity, to understand where your skill set lies in more of a broad spectrum, to understand that 90% of what you know comes from your experiences and from others you watch.
All right, I'm gonna cut you off. So if I'm sitting there, the first thing I'm gonna say is, all right, you're telling me that there might be other jobs for us, but I've applied to 50 and not heard back from anybody. So if that's true, you don't have to have every bullet point. Why don't I hear back from the jobs I have all the bullet points on? So I think we should tell them about what it's like on the other side of the how they get lost.
Yeah.
And do it succinctly with not $50 words.
Okay, well, I'll do it like this. I'll just, once again, just like a therapeutic term here. Here we go. I mean, like a phrase. Everyone wants to do well at their job. So we have Elizabeth and we have Maggie working for one singular company, hiring for that specific company as it pertains to a conglomerate, like an amazing big company, right? They want to do well with their job. So they are more inclined to understand that if there's so many people applying for one specific role, then the people who have more years of experience, that have the actual skills that are leveraged within the role, they're going to have a higher confidence in those people more often than not, as it pertains to bringing them in for actual interview and then putting those individuals in front of a manager. So that does not mean that you don't have value. It just means that you have to understand the landscape. They genuinely may receive 50 to 100 to 200 resumes at a time for one specific opening, even though you may be a good fit for actually carrying out this role and actually executing on it, but maybe your experiences don't necessarily align with how they've hired in the past.
Okay, well, let me jump in there. So if 200 resumes come in, the recruiters are looking, they may not get through 200 clearly. So they're trying to get through it, and tomorrow there's going to be more. So you got to keep that in mind. And don't take it personal. So I would call, I would LinkedIn. If they don't get back today, call them tomorrow. It's not because they didn't like your resume. It's odds that they didn't get to your resume. They just didn't get it. And you may think, well, why not? So we're trying to explain that if there's one job posted, there might be 200 applicants, and tomorrow's going to be another 200. So it's just like in the military. If you're looking to get promoted, put all your stuff in order, your PT scores, your NCO or OERs, whatever they are. You think, I'm going to be in the top 3 or not, I'm going to hear back. But you're always inquiring, hey, has that list come out yet? Where's that at? You got to do the same thing with recruiters, just like you do with HR. And squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I literally might have gotten sidetracked on something the last 2 hours, like this call or whatever, right? But there's applicants coming in. I can't get back to them all, but if you call me tomorrow, or if you email me tomorrow, now that you're at the top of my queue, or if you LinkedIn me, I'm like, okay, they found me on LinkedIn, showing some fortitude to find out who I am. That's what you need to do when you're trying to move into a job. So,
well, Mike, that makes me think of something. Like, that makes me think of this thing that we talked about earlier in the call, where some folks say, I feel icky because I feel like I'm selling. Oh, sales, like it's the true advocacy for yourself.
Yeah, you have to
advocate for yourself. You don't necessarily need to self-promote. I know that feels icky for a lot of soldiers. I totally understand. Like, I get it, because uniformity, right? Consistency. You're not better than your brother or your sister, right? I get it. I totally understand. However, you're stepping into a whole new world. So now people need to understand. They need to be able to experience like what you can bring to their lives, to their company. And so you have to be able to tell that to them. You need to be able to advocate for yourself in a way where you can sell your abilities.
Yeah, so look, sure, we're going to answer questions if there's any in there, so I'm going to yield, but reach out to Joe or myself on LinkedIn. We can go all day about TEKsystems jobs and what's great, but please know that the technology industry, it's healthcare, technology, and accounting, are the top 3 fields with the most jobs. The most unfilled jobs go in technology. That's why there's so much offshoring of that management. So if you want to start a career where there's a big vacuum, like I need to go into a field that has openings, IT is it. We would be glad to talk to you one-on-one, answer your questions. And I know Candy wants to have a couple minutes here, so I'm going to give it over to her.
So listen, guys, you gave me an awesome segue into the gift card giveaway, because I hope what everybody is picking up on and really the reason that Kevin and I are doing these every week, we want you to have direct exposure to the knowledge and the information that these recruiters want you to hear based on working with lots of applicants. And so with that, I have 3 minutes left and we will finish on time. I thank you all for sticking in here with us. As you probably know, the TEKsystems team is giving away a $200 Microsoft Xbox gift card today. And so here's how the winner is going to be selected. For those of you that have been attending our sessions in the past, you have a leg up on everybody else. And so I hope as we continue to give away gift cards, keep that in mind. But in the September 10th 50 Strong session, Kevin Wordy is the military talent acquisition lead at Deloitte. He shared a session called Demystifying the Civilian Recruiting Process. Now, if you've also been listening today, you may have picked up on some of this, but Kevin described 4 funnels into companies: campus recruiters, experienced recruiters, veteran recruiters, and what was the 4th funnel that he talked about? The first person to type it into the Q&A box is going to win. The Q&A box. Kev, can you see the Q&A box?
I think you're typing it into the chat. Going into chat on you.
First person to type it into the Q&A box.
I got one. Yahtzee.
All right.
Make sure. I don't want to.
Don't say the name, but
yeah,
you know the answer.
You see him, Kevin? There's lots of answers.
Yeah,
they're handing you.
It is. Do you want me to say the answer?
The answer is referral, and we've talked today about the need to do personal referrals as part of your job search process. It is so important that we are all connecting with recruiters and together with each other. So we'll check it out, see who the first person was to get that right, and we will send you a $200 Xbox gift card later.
I think it's Leslie. I think it's
all
Leslie.
Right.
They want to know right now, Candy. Don't push this off. Let them know.
Oh, wait, who is it? What was the name? I can't see
I think it's Leslie. I hope I said this right. Mountier.
Oh, Les Mountier. Awesome, Les. Congratulations. Okay, so listen, guys. I want to give you some final reminders. Again, I want to say sincere thank you to all of our panelists for joining us. This has been awesome. Friendly reminders going forward. I need you to leverage LinkedIn. There is so much great networking and learning and job sharing going on LinkedIn all the time. There is a 50 Strong session with lots of tips about how to use search, your free LinkedIn premium as a veteran, all kind of great stuff around settings. Please check that out. We have talked about Veterati today. Find your tribe of mentors in your industry and in your location if possible. Veterati is an awesome tool for that. Engage directly with those working in industry. So the 50 Strong series is part of that, but there are many, many opportunities for you to be engaging directly. LinkedIn, Veterati, lots of companies are doing webinar sessions. Lots of veteran service organizations do them. Please get as much direct connection as possible. seek to understand the recruiting process. And then that does give you the empathy that Joe talked about for recruiters. Open every single door for your job search, whether that's DoD Skill Bridge, whatever that is, but don't wait for placement. Be proactive and open every door. Last but not least, I'm 1 minute late. So join us back here next Thursday and every Thursday after that. Again, thank you all so much for being with us. I'm a little bit over time. We apologize. Again, thank you to our panelists, and we hope everybody has an awesome Thursday. Thank you again, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Reach out. We'll be glad to help.
Awesome. Thank you all.